You're listening to the Educated Cowgirl Podcast, Episode 10. Hey Cowgirls, I can't believe we are already on the 10th episode. I have had so much fun bringing you new episodes and getting to talk with so many incredible people in the equine industry so far. I would like to thank you all again for your positive feedback and support you have given me. It has really motivated me to provide you with quality episodes that you feel inspired by and I hope are helpful to you as you either start out in the world of horses or continue on if you have been a part of this world for a while. I hope the show has made an impact on you and your horse journey as it has for me and continues to do so in the future. The topic I'm talking about with today's guest is something that is on every business owner's mind and can sometimes cause a bit of a headache when you address it. But it is very important not only when growing your business, but promoting the equine industry. Marketing. From something as simple as word of mouth to creating a video for social media, we all struggle with reaching out to connect with people we want to work with and attracting new customers, which as we make those connections, that will in turn help to grow the industry. Someone who I think has done such a great job helping her clients find and make those connections with people to turn them from followers online into customers is Denise Alvarez of Storm Lily Marketing. She does such a great job coaching equine entrepreneurs to help them succeed in their businesses, from riding instructors to running a breeding farm. And I also love the mission behind her business, which you'll hear about in the episode, and helping them find the purpose God has put on their heart to share that with others. Her insight into marketing and the equine industry really comes across, and I can't wait for y'all to hear it. So, let's get into my conversation with Denise. Hey, and welcome to the Educated Cowgirl Podcast, hosted by yours truly. My name is Abby Carpenter, and I am a cowgirl and equestrian through and through. I started this podcast wanting to make more of an impact in the equine industry. That's why I am making it my mission to help promote the industry to the public through sharing my love for horses through education and bringing other experts and professionals onto the podcast with me to discuss important topics that impact the horse community. So whether you are a crazy horse lady like me, want to learn more about horses, or want to learn more about the industry, you've come to the right place. On this podcast, we will be talking about ownership, horsemanship, fitness, faith, breeds, and so much more. We believe that it doesn't matter what type of saddle you ride in or the breed of horse you may ride. We all contribute to this community to make it great, and that there is always something to learn from the back of your horse. So grab a coffee and get ready to take some notes, and let's get started. This is the Educated Cowgirl Podcast. Okay, so hello, Denise, and welcome to the Educated Cowgirl Podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Hey, Abby, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited too to discuss all things marketing, horses, and the industry. So I think these are very important conversations to have to promote the industry and help it grow for future generations. But to start us off, can you please introduce yourself to the listeners, what you do, and a fun fact about yourself?
A fun fact. All right. So my name is Denise Alvarez, and I am the host of the How to Market Your Horse Business podcast. And that is really the catalyst of how I serve equestrian entrepreneurs on a free basis. And then I have a business called Storm Lily Marketing. And there I get to help equestrian entrepreneurs to really learn the strategies and the tactics they need to be able to turn their online visitors into their customers. So we do that through one-on-one coaching, website design, and website content and copywriting. And then, like I said, through the podcast is where I really get to connect with people as well. So a fun fact. Well, I wasn't prepared for that one. I'm never good at those. Oh, a fun fact. Oh my goodness gracious. I'm like looking around for hints. I'm like, a fun fact. Okay, really? I just have two. Here's just a fun personal one. I have two kiddos, and my youngest is all things horses. She's a girl, and my oldest is all things sports, and he's a boy. So he's like not into them at all. But my daughter is all about it.
Great, great. All right. So first question. So I've listened to you for a while and I've done a little bit with your business. But can you tell us a little bit about your background with horses and marketing and how that led you to starting Storm Lily? And what was your mission when you started the business?
Okay, sure. Yeah, you bet. So marketing is definitely, and horses really have always been a part of my life in different aspects. Well, obviously marketing, maybe not always, but since I started my career. So I had a background in nonprofit marketing and have always been involved in some way in terms of event marketing, nonprofits, development, memberships and associations, right? Just different facets, always marketing, have always loved that, love learning messaging and really helping people to narrow down their audience and things like that. At the same time, I've always been a horse girl. So they've not always been married together. I grew up on the back of a horse doing trail rides. So I really didn't show much. It just really was horses were always a part of our life. We always had them at home. My parents still have them. So when I reached a point that I was having my second kiddo, honestly, and that was the catalyst to starting my business because I wanted to create a little more time freedom. And starting my own business was a great way to do that. And so as I prayed through, okay, what does this look like? Who should I, really hone in on, which is a big part of what I teach because I've learned it. When you just starting out, it really was, I'm just going to do marketing. Like I'll just have a marketing business, right? Well, then it was like, how do I get customers, right? Where am I going to go to find the people? How do I actually make those connections? And so that's how I narrowed it down to a niche of serving the equestrian industry because I've always loved that industry and I love being with horses. I love being with horse people. And so I decided, well, let's marry those two things together, take what I've learned and help the horse people that I love get to do more of the things that they love to do. So that's kind of how the horse school marketing kind of came together. And as far as the mission, honestly, you may have seen this on my website, but a big part of my why, in addition to the time flexibility for my family and serving horse business owners, is I have in my heart that one day we will have Storm Lily Ranch, which will be a place for at-risk youth and survivors of trafficking and different trauma to be able to come and experience the hope and love of Jesus through horses. And so that doesn't exist yet, but that definitely is a very big part of my why. And it's branded similarly. It's Storm Lily Marketing so that it can be Storm Lily Ranch. And so it's all very, very connected for me. But right now it's definitely the marketing avenue, but eventually it will be the ranch avenue too, which I'm very excited about.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I didn't know about the Storm Lily Ranch, which is so great. Like that you're promoting other people's businesses, but you're also like doing something that's good for the community as well. And I think having a business like yours is so great because a lot of horse people, they know horses, but they get to marketing and they're like, I don't know what to do. So yeah, that's so great. So as I've kind of mentioned before, marketing is a very scary word for a lot of people, me included. Whether you're running a business already or you're thinking about starting one. It can be overwhelming, thinking we have to constantly like be on our phones, like posting videos or like things on social media and creating different tools to stand out above everything else people see. So when someone starts working with you, how do you typically suggest they start to think about their marketing strategy and how they want their businesses to be seen by the right audience?
Sure. Great question. And you're absolutely right. It can be very overwhelming. I hear exactly what you said all the time. I know horses. I don't know marketing, right? I don't know. And even the business, just the business side oftentimes. So we honestly start with my one-on-one coaching clients, especially, I'll tell you the homework that I give them. I've shared this on the podcast, and that is to think about the clients that you want to duplicate because that's who we want to attract to your business. So it's really not about this idea of oftentimes the question is, how can I reach more people, right? How can I grow my followers? How can I get my stuff to become viral? And we think about just the quantity versus the quality. And so where I start with clients is really getting them to hone in on how do we get the quality contacts, the quality leads to come in the door. I know that you're thinking right now, I don't have any or very many, and I just need the numbers. But the reality is to create really clear and effective marketing messaging, You've got to be clear on who you're for and who you're a right fit for. And that is always the foundation, because then we can get really honed in on how do we speak to them? How do we speak to their desires? How do we figure out what their problems are and how you're helping them? But if you're trying to speak to everyone, you're truly not really communicating well with anyone. People might be hearing you, but it just goes over their head. It doesn't connect with them. But I try to help clients actually create content that connects them to the right customer. And what I often hear, the objection that often comes on the back of that is, but Denise, my method does work for everybody, right? The things that I know will work for every horse. My product will work for every horse. And while like baseline, that may be true, that could possibly be true. Not every horse owner is going to buy your product. Not every horse owner is a good fit for that. So you need to figure out, why are people coming to you? What is it they're trying to get the solution to, and how you're uniquely solving that? Because that's not going to be the same for everybody. So that foundation is always narrowing down your audience. And it's very hard. I had a client call yesterday and she was like, these questions are so hard, and you have to kind of sit with the hard, right? That's how progress works. But it can be very hard to narrow it down because you feel like you're saying no to a lot of people and a lot of things. But the reality is that's going to open up the door to the right people.
Yes, exactly. You have to focus on what you're good at. So also, when we think about horse businesses and marketing and finding the right audience, we tend to start playing the comparison game of how we stack up to other people and their businesses, which we shouldn't, because we're not in competition with them. We're all working towards the same thing to build a better industry. So when equestrian professionals, when they start doing this, how can we start to shift our minds from a marketing perspective to refocus our energy on our business path and not on someone else's path?
That's a really great question, whether it's, again, marketing or all the things. Of course, we know social media is a wonderful tool, but it can also be a very great avenue to just getting sucked into that comparison trap. So there are a few ways. And honestly, it comes with, yes, recognizing it, and then just deciding, I'm going to set an intention before I even open up this app, because that's often where it happens. That's not the only place it happens, but it's right there in our hands. And it's very easy because people share the highlights, right? That's what we do. We share the highlight reel. And not everybody's sharing the nitty gritty, and not everybody has to share the nitty gritty, but it really has to start with your mindset before you even open it up. Right. And just knowing that, for me, I'll tell you, I have to open it up and go, okay, this is a tool for connection. Like, this is not just for promotion. It is also not just for getting on to see what everybody else is doing and then wishing I was at that level in my business, or I was at a place where I had those horses or that property or whatever the case may be. Opening it up with an intention, and really some of that just self-talk and just telling yourself, I'm opening it up. This is my intention. This is what I'm using it for. And then the awareness, when you start to feel yourself pulled into that comparison. I actually heard a podcast the other day. I think it was Jasmine Star, and she was sharing her tips for this. And I loved this. I'm going to borrow it, but I'm giving her credit. And it was, when you see somebody and you're starting to feel that come up, you're feeling that jealousy, you're feeling that comparison, intentionally leave a comment and encourage that person. So like literally instead turn it around. And she was like, leave a comment, leave a meaningful comment. Don't just say congratulations, but like, congratulations, you've worked really hard to get where you are. I'm so happy for you. Like, just making some conscious choices that, will actually put our feet to the ground and take action. And then doing that kind of cements it in our mind and kind of reverses a little bit of what that's doing. So I loved that idea, but really it is a lot of intentionality ahead of time before you even get on there and preparing yourself, because man, it's so easy to get sucked into the scroll. It really is.
Yeah. I love that actually so much, because it not only like it helps you take a step back and think about what you're thinking, but also like it helps encourage someone else, because that person, they might be really big, but they might be struggling with something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah. So that, I love that. I love that so much. Okay. So, the world of marketing has changed a lot in all industries, but with the equine industry specifically, for instance, I can think of someone who has really used their TikTok platform to really create a lot of dynamic and creative videos to showcase her horses and her sales. Have you seen with your clients or other entrepreneurs finding new creative ways to grow their businesses to succeed? Or do you think business owners could be doing more to attract new customers to their businesses?
Well, that's two great, almost separate questions. So first, do I see people doing new and creative things? Yes. To be honest, what I see more is people doing new and creative things without a strategy behind it. So just seeing the trends and jumping on them, but having no clue. I literally had a conversation with somebody about this morning, and it was around TikTok. And there I've seen people also successfully using TikTok. I've also seen people have really high numbers on TikTok that have said there was really no return on that. Like, I got a lot of views, but people aren't taking action. And so it really oftentimes is jumping onto the trend. And being creative is great, but if you're just jumping onto the trend and you don't have a strategy behind that, it's not going to benefit you and it's not going to give you return on time. So something I often coach on is email marketing, for example, because while social media is a wonderful tool, it's not something that we own access to with our audience. So you can have, we've all seen it, right? We've seen these accounts, Instagram, Facebook, all the places where they get shut down and for some unknown reason. And then they lose access to those 50,000 followers that they had. But if they had an email strategy behind that, then they're able to turn around and email their list. Even if it's 6,000 people that are invested in them, they can email and directly contact those 6,000 people because they own that list. So that's part of what I coach on with my clients is like use social media as a great tool, and you can totally make sales on the back of social media. But if it's your only platform and you have no other way of connecting with your clients and customers, then you're really taking a huge risk. And there are some ways to minimize that with email marketing. Okay, Abby, remind me your second question. Because it was a two-parter. So the first one was trends.
And then do you think business owners could be doing more to attract new customers to their business?
Oh, yes. Oh, of course. Right. Who couldn't be doing more?
Yeah.
So, and honestly, that can be the issue too, is it feeling like you have to do more? To be honest, it's going back to that knowing your audience. And then I will say consistency. Consistency is oftentimes what is lacking. And I've already talked about the idea of more, right? And we want quality over quantity. So I'm going to hone in on consistency being the key, because oftentimes, whether it's in email or social media, which is the two main, email, social media, and website, is why I hone in on that so often, because online, those are the three avenues most people go for. And then, of course, your strategy branches out from there most often.
Yes.
But even in those avenues, if you have a website that hasn't been touched in 10 years, you might want to start there, right? If it really looks, and some of them 5 years, age pretty fast, depends on what you had done. But if you're showing up on social, you've created your account, you posted 5 times in a row, and then you got busy in your business, which happens. And then you don't show up for another month or 2 months. And then people go there and they're like, oh, is she still, and some people don't show up for a year. Like I've been to accounts where I'm like, is she still in business? Because she hasn't posted in a long time. So really, it's that consistency that's also going to help you. Number one, of course, the algorithms do like it when you're showing up, but then your audience, when they do find you and connect with you, then they'll find you there. Now, as far as getting people, if you're saying, Denise, I'm being consistent, but I still am not seeing the return, then my other thing to remind you of is that social media is social.
Yes.
So rather than creating and waiting for people to come to you, create and then go and engage. Go find your followers. Who's following you that you haven't, visited their page or profile in a while? Can you go and engage in their content? Who's liking your post? If you're not getting comments, who's liking your post? Go find the people that are liking you and see if you can go and engage with them as well. Now, granted, it depends on if you're talking business and personal and privacy. I get that. And it depends on the platform, but there are still ways that you can go intentionally engage with the people that you want to work with, rather than just waiting and saying, why isn't everybody coming to me?
Right. Yeah, no. And that's where the connection comes in that you talked about earlier with social media, is having that intention of, oh, I'm going to connect with this person. I'm going to start building a relationship, even if it is online. Yeah. Which is so great. And with like people only posting 5 times and then getting busy, that happens a lot with service-based businesses because they're like, oh, I'm training horses or I'm teaching lessons.
Yes.
Like, I don't post all the time. I don't really want my phone in the arena with me all the time.
Yes.
So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I completely get it. And it is that idea of working in versus on your business. Right.
Yes.
Like, so we totally, every business owner, I'm guilty of it too, of just, we get into the, I got client work to do. So I'm not going to create today. Right. I'm not going to work on, and even financial, right? Like I need to get my financials in order. So that's working on your business. Right.
Yes.
And as an entrepreneur, it's so important that we just make that distinction and we have a way to kind of reset ourselves. Maybe it's a monthly check-in, maybe it's a goals check-in quarterly, whatever it is, you've got to have some intentionality behind it as a business owner, because otherwise it's very easy to be in the business and not working on the business.
Yes, exactly. So to shift a little bit, on a recent episode of yours, you talk about the takeaways you had from a Kenny Chesney concert. And
Yeah.
I think that is so great to look at the entertainment industry and how they are marketing to their public and to their fans. And I've heard many other people in this industry, from photographers and a horseman, that they also talk about going outside of the equine industry to get ideas of how you can market your business and apply it to the equine world. So besides from concerts, what industries have you seen that have excellent marketing strategies that horse businesses should be looking into?
Oh, what an interesting question. And it's funny because concerts, I really didn't set out to learn from the entertainment industry. I'm just a real big fan of learning everywhere you go.
Yeah.
So to be honest, I wrote lessons from being at Road to the Horse for the same thing. It wasn't horsemanship lessons. Well, I totally learned a lot about horsemanship there. I'm a really big fan of looking everywhere you're at, looking for opportunities to learn. So that's why that question, I'm like, oh, I'm pausing, because if you looked at who and what I follow and what I'm learning from and the emails that I get, there are definitely people that are, online marketing experts. But there are also people that are just really great at YouTube content. So I personally tend to just look at different facets of where they're excelling at and try to learn from that. So I'm not looking at specific industries and saying, go look and see I used to work the Chocolate and Candy Association back in the day, which literally is an association for chocolate and candy makers. And the same thing, like there are chocolate and candy makers that are doing some really cool things, but there are also tech industry experts that are doing some really cool things, right? There are also some clothing and apparel companies that are really smart in their marketing. So I am so sorry, but I don't have a direct answer to you, because I am really one of those people who's just like, everywhere I go, I've got my notes app on my phone and I'm just learning, not even just looking for ideas to replicate, but more looking for what was the strategy behind that? What was the why behind what they did that? I know they had a reason for that, and kind of trying to digest it that way. Sorry, that's not a direct answer, but I'm just all the time. I'm just a learner.
That actually helps, because we can pull from different areas and kind of keep our eyes open everywhere we go, even if it's not in the barn.
Yeah, exactly.
You could one example that I have been thinking about recently is, if you were on TikTok at all in the past few weeks, you saw Bama Rush TikTok and sorority recruitment. And I was thinking about how they've really they've honed the market of how they recruit girls and to rush their sororities. And I was like, I wonder if there's a way we could look into that and be oh, well, maybe that could be something. But I don't know if that's just an idea. I that's just learning what you're observing. But
exactly. Yeah, there's inspiration at every turn. Yeah, at every turn.
Yeah. So with that, marketing trends seem to be going more online and doing more online sales. So how do you think service-based businesses like trainers, instructors, and so on, how can they incentivize more people to come out to their barns and be in person more? And how could they utilize online platforms to reach more clients through their services?
That's a great question. How to get them out to the barn more. I will tell you the first thing that comes to mind. And I literally was coaching with a riding instructor yesterday in Oregon, and we talked about telling the stories. And really, you're going to say, Denise, you just said that. But honestly, talking to the people that are there now and saying, what is it that made you come here? right? Why? Tell me more about the impact that it's had on you. Tell me more about the transformation that you've experienced. Telling those stories. And then what you're going to find is as you tell those stories online, everywhere you go on a regular basis, then you're going to find more of those people that connect with that, right? If you pay attention to, you talked about different industries, just watch commercials and you will see very often it's a story that's unfolding before you, right? Like before this is how I was feeling. After this, now look how great things are. That is a testimonial, and that's how you share your transformation stories. So tell the stories of your existing clients. Before I started coming here, I was feeling afraid of horses. Now I have confidence. Here's what so-and-so did for me, right? And you can be specific in that. Like when you talked about getting them to come to the barn, you can say, after I came 3 times a week, this is what I experienced. Or after I started investing in riding lessons, private and group, like you can be specific to get the result that you want. Yeah. But certainly sharing those stories, that's what people connect with. And as you do that, right, then I'll give you a very practical thing to do. And that's in your online marketing, give a call to action. When you're sharing a story, don't just leave it there. Say, okay, if you've experienced XYZ, then I have openings in my program. Here's how you get started. Send me a message, visit here, right? Like come for your free introductory lesson, whatever it is that you have that already gets people in the door. Include a call to action. That's a super simple, practical thing that every service-based owner or product-based owner can do. But since you're talking specifically, like, how do we get them there, right? Send a message, tell the story. The other thing that we didn't talk about when I shared about knowing your audience is there are things that are unique about you that you can and should share as well. For example, disciplines obviously can be very specific. So share about that because there are kids that are probably wanting to get involved in that particular thing because they saw it on TV or read about it or met a friend. And parents are the ones that are scrolling, right? And looking for those things. So call that out and then let them know that's what you do specifically, right? So be specific about sharing your methods, your views, your values, the things that make your program unique. And then again, follow that up with those invites, right? So there's that to get them there. And then the second part, what was sorry. I get so excited about the first part.
Yeah. So you touched on it a little bit, but utilizing online platforms to reach more clients through their services. And you mentioned it a little bit with your call to action, but
yeah. Yeah. And the other thing, so especially if you're talking local, right? Some people are like, okay, I'm struggling to make those local connections. Hashtags are still they're not dead. Some people, they think they are, but they can help you to get seen. They can also help you to find the right people. So maybe it is, doing a little bit of research and going outside of, so for example, the person I met with yesterday for her coaching call, she is doing lessons in a local program, right? She's one of the very few in that area. So she doesn't need to just use like hashtag horseback riding lessons to find people. She needs to use hashtag in her location or some hashtags that are specific to what the moms in her area are going to be looking for. Or maybe she needs to go find those Facebook groups where the moms are hanging out and looking for local deals and looking for kids' activities and things like that. So knowing your people isn't just about creating content. It's also about where can I get outside of that and go find them online and create those connections and or collaborations too, so maybe there's somebody in your area that you can collaborate with that's not exactly in the equine industry, but that mom is still going there. That parent is still going there and you can create some connections that way as well. So get scrappy, honestly, again, so often we think I created the page, I created the website. Why aren't they coming to me? And get outside of your bubble and go look for ways to create those connections.
I love that, getting outside the bubble, because we tend to form bubbles in our little worlds. Yes, especially when we get more specialized. So, So, all right. So, this has been really great. So I could talk about marketing all day, but I know you're a busy lady. So for one final question, do you have any final nugget or nuggets, if you have more than one, of advice for people running businesses or wanting to start a business, but are feeling intimidated about the marketing process to start attracting the right customers?
If you're just starting and you don't have any clients, that's going to be a little bit different. So if you're starting, but you have some existing clients, I will tell you what I said earlier, which is talk to the people that you are loving working with and start asking them questions, very specific questions that are not yes and no answers, and take notes. Because what I want you to do is use what they're telling you in your marketing and messaging. Because what often happens is we use our lingo, and that's actually not what the customer is thinking. Okay. So when you're wanting to create content that connects you with that customer and gets them to buy, you need to be using their verbiage. So you can do that by talking to those people. Now, if you're saying, Denise, I don't have any clients yet, then I want you to just start making those connections with the people that you want to work with. And let me caveat that with, you're going to refine your process and your people over time. So it is okay that starting out, it's broad. And it is okay that starting out, it's one thing. And then a few months into it, you're like, I thought I was going to love this, but I actually think I like working with this segment instead, right? Or this age of writer, or, whatever the case may be. Like, it is okay to refine over time. But in the beginning, it really is just about getting outside of your bubble, making those connections, and being willing to do the scrappy work. Being willing to, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. That doing some of that in the beginning is totally okay. Just getting your feet on the ground and getting started. And then again, just paying close attention. What are people saying? What are the problems that they have that you can solve? And that's the same, whether it's marketing, whether it's writing, whether it's training, whether it's a combination, breeding, right? Whatever the case is. People have verbiage they're using when they talk to you. I'm so glad I found you. Before I worked with you, I was feeling this. Now that we've worked together, I feel this. This is my favorite thing about working with you. They're not going to say that naturally, but you can ask them those questions, and then you can take that verbiage and you can use that to create content and messaging that's going to help get those right people in the door.
Yes, that is so true. Like when you're starting out and like you're trying to find your plan and like what works best for you, sometimes you have to like talk to that person and be like, hey, so I don't really want to I want to work more with this type of person. I don't really want to do a lot of adult writers, or I don't really want to work with kids as much. It's just like what works for you and what's going to like help you in your path and your journey and what God has for you, what works best for you. And sometimes like you might have someone that's being like, well, you're kicking me out because I'm not what you want to work with, but you also don't want to work with that person because they're bring negative energy in. So yeah,
that could be a whole other podcast topic, couldn't it?
Yes, it could be finding positive people to work with and wanting to work with the people you want to work with. You don't want to work with people who are not going to be good for you. All right. So I love to end my interviews with a little this or that game. So okay. I'm going to give you two different options and you can decide which one you prefer. So summer or fall?
Fall, all the way.
All right. You get your girl card. Yeah. All right. So breakfast or dinner?
Breakfast.
Nice. Sweet or salty?
Sweet, for sure.
Sweet. All right. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Okay. Rom-com or drama?
Oh, rom-com. Yeah.
Nice. Love it. All right. So this has been so great, Denise. Thank you so much for talking with me again. For those who might be interested in finding out more about Storm Lily Marketing and your services, where can they find you online and on social media?
Sure. Yep. It's easy. Storm Lily Marketing at all the places. So stormlilymarketing.com. It's literally spelled Lily, Lily. So stormlilymarketing.com. Instagram, Facebook is the same. And then I have the How to Market Your Horse Business podcast on all the podcast places.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Denise.
Yes, thanks, Abby. I appreciate you having me.
When we think about marketing from the perspective of telling our stories and making connections with others, it becomes a less scary word. And we can approach how we choose to put ourselves and our businesses out there differently. As Denise said, it can help us set our intentions to put a strategy into action to attract the clients we want to work with. Not everyone will resonate with your message, but if you focus on creating content that shows who you are and what makes you special, you will start to form relationships with clients you will love and see the fruits of your labor. It doesn't matter if what you put out there is trending if you don't see any return on the work you put into it. Sometimes it takes getting scrappy, getting outside of our bubble, and learning from everything around us to put together a plan that is right for each of us in our own unique way. I would love to hear your takeaways from my conversation with Denise by either commenting on my social media post, sharing this episode on your story, and tagging me at The Educated Cowgirl and Denise at Storm Lily Marketing, or just by leaving me a review on whatever platform you're listening on. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Educated Cowgirl podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, learned something new, and will come back for more. But for now, stay blessed and ride on, cowgirls.